Hello and welcome to the December issue of Frontier Digital. In our video interview this month, we talked to Duty Free World Council President Frank O'Connell on the development of an industry academy and get the latest update on the progress of the first in a series of economic impact studies. O'Connell makes clear to Frontier that the studies are not intended to replicate or indeed replace existing research services available in the industry, rather to demonstrate the economic impact of travel retail in a specific region. He says Europe has been chosen for the first study owing to the wealth of data currently available. Meanwhile, the creation of a global database will help build a better understanding of the companies, stores and people currently active in the industry, while simultaneously providing a source of information for consumers. The Duty Free World Council President concludes by talking more broadly about the pace of industry change as the travel retailer market continues to be squeezed. He also sheds light on current threats to operations, such as the food labelling for consumers regulation.
I think what we're trying to do is pull together, well, first of all, we're trying to do a series of economic impact studies that demonstrate the economic impact of our industry in a region. And the first one we've commissioned is the European region. And that's almost complete. The point of the information from the Council's point of view is that we want to gather information and analysis that we can use with regulators to influence regulators. And that's the point of the exercise. Much of the other data that's produced and research that's produced is for commercial purposes. What we're trying to do is use it for influencing people. And so that's why the economic impact, what's the economic effect of our industry? What's the direct effect and the indirect effect? What employment do we generate? What's the added value of the industry? They're all the things. What difference do we make to the GDP of Europe? What's encouraging, I think, is that, okay, look, retailing is permanently changing anyway, both on the high street and in travel retail. And new technologies is obviously are driving change as well. And the online selling and online retailing, people using apps to research prices and so on. But out of all of that, there are a couple, you'll read now and then some interesting and encouraging research that says, despite all of that, that the number of people, for instance, Google has some research out recently, which shows that something like 60-70% of people research products on the smartphone or on their iPad or whatever. But while they all do all that, they don't buy them off that. They buy them in the shop. And that there is a growing, seems to be a growing movement that, yeah, we can research all this stuff, but we actually want to see it in practice, physically touch it and feel it and smell it and then buy it. So those sort of indicators, I think, from Google are encouraging that our industry is going to be there for the long term. The other thing that's encouraging is that air travel continues to grow. And when you see some of the increases in air travel that are around the world, like some of the figures I'd be familiar with in Dublin. Dublin Airport has a 15% increase in traffic this year, on the year to date. So, and 15% of whatever it is, 23, 24 million is a lot of people. So, and everywhere else you go, you see figures of 5, 6, 7% increase in traffic. And that's all, it has to be encouraging because that's providing more and more customers for the shops. I suppose what has happened is that you've got the big ones and they tend to sell the sort of core categories. But then you've got all these other ones who are selling all the specialized products and the accessories and the jewelry and so on, which a lot of the big ones don't necessarily have in their range. And airports themselves, a lot of them now increasingly, as they develop retailing in the airports, they're introducing more and more specialist shops in addition to the core duty-free travel retail shop. So in that sense, I suppose the industry is probably evolving. All industries at one stage or at various stages in their in their life cycles of industries, they go through periods of consolidation, and then it goes the other way, and then they're back again. And so our industry, I think, is now following that path of consolidation. We've got we have a council website, and that has on it a portal to allow people to access a library. And in that library, we've mostly archival material, but going back a long way. So you've got all past issues of most of the trade journals. You've got duty-free histories. You've got material around various duty-free celebrations. You've got a whole range of videos, old videos, which have been put onto CDs, onto DVDs. So that's all now catalogued, and you can access that catalogue on our website through a portal. It's a very simple process, and you can just type in different things and they'll pop up. And if you want to get copies of those, then you apply through the website to get copies of the material. So that's up and running. The website also has some of the latest statistics on the industry and forecasts on the industry, and that will be updated on an annual basis. So that's in place. The library being in place, I think, is an important piece, and that sort of feeds into the area of education. And the council is committed to the notion of education. Now, education in the sense of raising standards in the industry, of maybe setting standards for the industry. And in that regard, we've been exploring this idea of some form of academy for the industry. And there's work going on in that in the background, which I hope will come to fruition before too long. But that's it's a complex process we want any form of educational work that we do needs to be linked into universities. It needs to be linked into academic standards and recognised standards and so on. So that's all happening in the background. And so that's the biggest, I suppose, they're concrete projects that are there, and they're happening, and they'll happen, and they'll come to fruition in due course. I think the other issues, though, I see for the industry looking forward is there are growing threats to the industry, I think, around the world, primarily in the area of labelling. Now, labelling, when you say to labelling, people say, oh, yeah, labelling, yeah. And it's all very boring. And it is, and it's very technical, and it's very detailed, but it can stop you selling a product if it's not right. And in the EU, and increasingly in other nations, governments are looking for very specific things on labels, which in the long run will impact on our business negatively, because our business is a cross-border business, and yet most of the labelling demands that are being made are national demands. And so it'll increasingly become, I think, could become very difficult for brand owners to keep supplying product to this market with one label, to this market with another label, to this market with another label, and us to be able to sell them across borders. And I think that's one of the biggest real growing issue for the industry, and not one easily dealt with.